Alexis lays into Rick after his unwelcome visit, and Rocco overhears the last thing Drew wants him to. On today's General Hospital, Maxie is talking to Sam's photo at her funeral prep, lamenting that she isn't getting all the flower arrangements right. She then reminisces about her friend just as Lucas walks in and says his sister would approve of the yellow flowers. He's acting morose, though, and Maxie demands to know what's wrong with him. He doesn't think today would have happened if he hadn't been Sam's surgeon. He should have known better. He did know better. He's determined to take the blame for it. The only thing he can think of after going over it all is that he made a mistake. He just can't figure out what it was. Maxie tries reassuring him that sometimes bad things just happen. Plus, he's just taking the easy way out of this by blaming himself. Sam didn't make decisions out of sentiment, and she was never wrong. Lucas still insists it was on him. Believe in Sam. She trusted you, so trust her. Taylor shows up at Trina and Jocelyn's only to have the door closed in his face by Trina. She yells at Joss for answering the door, only for her roomie to talk her into giving Kai a chance, especially since she does that for Ava. Jocelyn heads out to get ready for Sam's funeral, telling Taylor that he owes her as she leaves. Inside, he wants to state his case for Trina to give him another chance. He stammers out some apologies and explanations and says he knows art history isn't easy, but he wants to learn about it and he's willing to pull his weight. If someone walked into the art gallery and wanted to learn, would she just turn him away? She'd talk to him, but that's a conversation, not something mandatory for class. He starts by going through the syllabus, saying he's got a good memory and can be taught. Aiden picks his mom up at the hospital. She wants to talk to him about Lucky. They sit down and she tells him that there's a possibility that he's leaving again. I know, Mom. I kind of expected it. If Lucky goes back to Africa, that's just what he does. The good thing is he's alive and trying to do some good. Elizabeth marvels at how kind and understanding their son is. Lucky's reading the news at Bobby's when Brennan walks in behind him and introduces himself as the man who saved your life. He explains how he assisted in Lucky's extraction with the WSB. They trade some tense pleasantries, and Lucky says he has until he finishes his coffee for Brennan to tell him what he wants. Jack admits he's been impressed by Lucky's work, and he's got a job for him in the same region. He needs someone grabbing intel, and he'd be handsomely rewarded. Lucky says he's not in it with the money, and working with the WSB always comes with strings. Part of the job will be helping refugees and Lucky, and the WSB will be aligned in what they want to do. If he wants the job, he can get on a flight in the next 24 hours. Liz walks in and locks eyes with Lucky. Drew's getting ready for the funeral at the mansion when the kids walk in and Scout wants to know what happened to his face. Drew assures them all he's fine, just embarrassed. He walked into a door. He promises Scout he's okay. She's worried he'll break his promise to always be with him like Mommy did. He reassures her that Mommy loved her, then asks about the flowers she picked from Leela's garden for her mom. Nina shows up and asks if Drew's okay, then promises she'll try to make his bruises look better. Unfortunately, it was too late for the kids to see. Cody assures him he won't always feel like this. He just has to give himself and the kids time. Eventually, it'll be about remembering the good times. He talks about the time Sam lost it on the softball ump, and Olivia comes in to back him up. Dante smiles a bit recalling and finishes the story with Olivia. But then Cody says something about Sam always getting out of tough spots and Dante drops again. He leaves to check on the kids, and Olivia assures Cody he didn't do anything wrong. Dante's going to need him. Cody promises to do everything he can. As Alexis struggles to get a bracelet on, Christina and Molly walk in. only for their mom to tell them she doesn't think she can get through the day. Molly goes to fix the bracelet as Alexis tells Christina that it's the last gift Sam gave her, and she has to wear it today. Molly comes back as Christina says it feels like just yesterday they were burying Adela. Molly gives her mom the fixed bracelet, then awkwardly tells them she needs to get some air. Outside, Rick's waiting for her and they hug. He gives her a belated birthday gift, tickets to 12 Angry Men. She says they'll go together. Shortly after hugging, TJ shows up. The sun was setting over Port Charles, casting a warm amber glow through the windows of Alexis Davis's townhouse. But inside, the atmosphere was anything but warm. The living room, usually a space for quiet contemplation or lively family gatherings, now served as the battleground for a confrontation that was long overdue. Alexis stood by the fireplace, her arms crossed, her face a mask of fury. Across from her, Rick Lansing lounged on the couch, his posture relaxed but his expression guarded. It was a stark contrast to the tension crackling in the air like an impending thunderstorm. "You've got some nerve, Rick," Alexis began, her voice low and trembling with barely restrained anger. "Showing up here unannounced after everything you've put me and my family through." Rick smirked, a trademark expression that had both charmed and infuriated her over the years. "I wasn't aware I needed an invitation, Alexis. We've got history after all." "History? Is that what you call it?" She shot back, her voice rising. "I call it manipulation, betrayal, lies. And now you think you can just waltz in here, uninvited, like nothing ever happened." Rick leaned forward, his smirk fading. "I came to talk about Molly. She's my daughter too, Alexis. I have a right to know what's going on in her life." Alexis' eyes narrowed, her jaw tightening. "Don't you dare use Molly as an excuse to worm your way back into my life. She's doing fine, and she doesn't need you stirring up trouble." Rick opened his mouth to respond, but Alexis cut him off, her voice like a whip. "You think I've forgotten how you tried to manipulate her? How you used her as a pawn in your twisted games? You don't get to play the concerned father now, Rick. Not after everything." For a moment, Rick looked genuinely wounded, but Alexis knew better than to trust it. Rick Lansing was a master manipulator, and she wasn't about to let him twist her emotions to his advantage again. "I made mistakes," Rick admitted, his voice softer now, almost contrite. "But I'm trying to be better, Alexis. Can't you see that?" Alexis laughed bitterly. "Better? That's rich coming from you. You don't change, Rick. You just get better at pretending." The argument might have gone on for hours, escalating into a full-blown shouting match, but a sudden sound from the doorway brought both of them up short. Rocco Falconeri stood frozen in the hallway, his wide eyes fixed on Drew Kane, who had been trying to usher him out of the house unnoticed. Drew's face was a study in panic, his usual calm demeanor cracked by the unexpected presence of the young boy. "Rocco," Drew said, his voice strained. "What are you doing here?" I came to see if Scout wanted to play," Rocco stammered, his gaze darting between Drew and the living room, where Alexis and Rick's voices were still audible, though muffled now by the walls. Drew crouched down to Rocco's level, his expression softening into something more fatherly. "Scout's not here right now, buddy. Why don't I give your mom a call and see if she can come pick you up?" But Rocco wasn't listening. His attention had shifted back to the living room, where he could just make out snippets of Alexis's tirade against Rick. His young mind didn't grasp the full context, but he could tell it wasn't a friendly conversation. "Drew," Rocco said hesitantly, his voice barely above a whisper, "why is Alexis so mad?" Drew sighed, running a hand through his hair. This was the last thing he wanted. He had enough on his plate without trying to explain adult drama to a child. Sometimes grown-ups argue, Rocco, Drew said, choosing his words carefully. But it's not something you need to worry about, okay? Let's focus on getting you home. But Rocco wasn't so easily placated. Is it about me? He asked, his voice small. Did I do something wrong? No, Rocco, Drew said quickly, his tone firm but kind. This has nothing to do with you. I promise. Still, the boy's face was troubled, his young mind clearly racing to make sense of the chaos around him. Drew placed a reassuring hand on Rocco's shoulder, trying to steer him toward the door. But just as they reached the threshold, Alexis's voice rang out sharp and clear. You don't get to play the victim, Rick. Not after the damage you've done.